Philippines' second people power or EDSA2 in January 2001 belongs to the era after the martial law where most Philippine media regained prominence and influence to the public after being confiscated and sequestered from previous administrations. In every revolution, the media is seen to play an important role, but is also oftentimes point to blame, distraction, or confusion. Exodus is remembered to overthrow then President Joseph Ejercito Estrada in his second year due to charges of plunder. His impeachment was widely televised until an envelope allegedly containing evidence was voted to leave unopened. Blow by blow, people saw and hear in the radio and TV how prosecutors boycotted the trial, how personalities called out protest, and cabinet officials one by one changed sides. While eyes are most on the events on the street, media are left with the ultimate question if the president has already left the presidential residence. This paper then attempts to reconstruct a history of Exodus in a postmodern perspective. Instead from politicians and key persons, the focus is on the media culture in times of turmoil through personal perspectives of radio and TV reporters. The goal is to trace the personal, political, economic, and technological factors that affected media's representation of such a historic event. Results showed that industry experience, contact to resource persons, and observational judgments were the key factors in how reporters personally saw the events unfolding, and this was reflected in the difference of their reportage. For example, the presidential media have an organized routine. The press office assists, schedule, and set coverage limitations for them. However, the only authorized resource persons is the presidential spokesperson, whose only stance is to wait for all the evidence presented. On the other hand, senior reporters of networks are usually given the palace beat, hence they have been familiar to the routine, the people, and what happens to media in a nation's turmoil, such as decoding when the government network went off air, or even in the simple details like when the drivers of officials are not in their lunch anymore. However, some reporters express their personal stand outside, such as gathering along the EDSA after coverage. On the other hand, network pressures, competition, and confusion set the mood among media practitioners and framed the story produced. The government-owned network was pulled out of the palace, and the very next day they were sent to cover the declaration of a different president. With resource persons gone, reporters left in the palace guarded outside the presidential residence and relied on the statements of the first family that everything is under control, which even they find unreliable is still technically valid anyway. Since networks and the public are getting impatient, reporters resorted to different strategies such as describing the atmosphere of the place, body language, and vehicles going in and out. Admittedly, some reports went beyond observation to reporting that the president left already. Conflict among reporters started when a TV colleague outscooped others, claiming that the presidential family is still inside sleeping and officials are still visiting. As a result, some reporters are scolded by their networks and pressured to report the same conclusions. Come the last day of EDSA2, there were more media in the palace, including foreign and cable channels. Upon learning that the president is about to leave, media hurried, which made it easier for radio reporters to run, since they did not need equipment to carry. As media approached the presidential family, they were swayed by the security group. It was hard to take footage from the sides, microphones were chopped, and the audio of radio reporters are no use because of the noise. There was also no space for live spills, and the OV vans were parked outside. Unusual for the reporters, the president snubbed the media and only left a moving ambush statement that he will leave the palace to avoid violence. He then took an unexpected turn, which meant that he will not leave an official statement. Media had to change position, some cameramen climbed trees, and some phones of reporters fell in the river because of stampede. Luckily, a cameraman for live was able to capture the iconic presidential family on barge, waving to the people and accompanied by the reporter's voiceover describing the emotions of the family. This captured sympathy for many Filipino audiences, even if they themselves protested. After the tensions, reporters believed that they were intentionally avoided because of the fear that an official statement mediated in broadcast will provoke pro-Estrada people to violence. It is then realized that while personal perspectives, observations, and experiences may shape how reporters saw events unfolding, these are still less powerful than network influences that controls their actions and trigger preempted observations. While radio took advantage of mobility, television still takes over once an iconic moment is captured, added by the power of narration. Shows that broadcasted media products, despite technological limitations and disaster of its time, still add as cultural artifacts from which people refer judgments and emotions.